preach on here all the time about professional athletes, leagues like the NFL, the NBA, and especially Major League Baseball, staying out of politics. And the reason that I say especially with Major League Baseball is because they have been hemorrhaging viewers for 20 to 25 years. They can't lose any more of their audience. You could say the same thing about the NBA. The NBA has never recaptured the magic and the popularity that they experienced during the 90s with Michael Jordan. However, if you go back to the late 2000s to about 2012, when LeBron was chasing and eventually winning his first championship, Kobe Bryant was winning multiple titles, the NBA back then was getting great ratings. It was nothing back then for a regular season NBA game to average 5-6 million viewers. Now, the NFL is a bit different. Football is so popular here in America, there's just not much that can happen that will take the NFL down. But when Colin Kaepernick began kneeling for the national anthem back in 2016, the NFL lost 20% of their audience. So, when it comes to woke politics, not even the NFL is invincible. The reason I say athletes and sports leagues need to stay away from woke politics and politics in general is not because I disagree with woke politics. Now, don't get me wrong. I think being woke is garbage. I would rather be asleep than woke. But my political opinions have nothing to do with the reason I think sports should stay away from politics. The reason is simple. It's just bad business. Politics, by design, are divisive. These politicians pushing wokeness, they don't really believe in all of that. They use it as a tool to keep everybody divided. It's a distraction. Their policies are indefensible. They can't stand on their policies alone because they know the majority of the public won't accept their socialist policies. So they're using wokeness to keep the country divided. And it's working. And this allows them to shift attention away from their horrible policies and also to remain in power. We were gifted a perfect example of why people affiliated with sports should stay the hell out of politics or social issues just 2 days ago on Tuesday. Now, in case you were in a coma on Tuesday, the verdict for the Derek Chauvin, I think is his name, Chauvin trial was released up in Minnesota. He was found guilty of second and third degree murder of George Floyd. Now, everyone knew this was coming. Hell, they had video of the dude kneeling on George Floyd's neck for like 9 minutes. I don't think anybody could argue that this was the right verdict. The guy was guilty. Now, after Chauvin was found guilty, the brother of George Floyd came out and said that he and his family could finally breathe again. When Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd's neck, he famously said that he couldn't breathe multiple times. We all seen the tape. You know what I'm talking about. So George Floyd's brother says that he and his family can now breathe again. Shortly after he said that, the Raiders' Twitter account posted 3 simple words. I can breathe. That's it. You would have thought that this was the most heinous statement in the history of professional sports. LeBron James was outraged. He just could not believe this tweet. Shannon Sharp, he expressed his disgust Wednesday morning on Undisputed. In other words, all the wokers out there were just so terribly offended by the Raiders' tweet. Raiders owner Mark Davis later came out and he took full responsibility for the tweet. But dude, this is my point. This is the point that I have been making since last summer. Whether you're a business, the owner of an NFL franchise, or the NFL and the NBA themselves, inserting yourself into political or social issues, you can't win. All you're doing is putting yourself in a lose-lose situation. I don't think Mark Davis was being insensitive with his little comment. I honestly think that he was trying to align himself and be supportive of the family of George Floyd. But with wokers, you just never know how they're going to react to something. They get so offended so easily. They'll take something that I believe Mark Davis meant as a positive, and then will spin it into a negative. My thing is, if Mark Davis was black and he owned the Oakland Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders, whatever they are now, do you think there would be this same kind of outrage from LeBron James or Shannon Sharpe? Of course not. I get so tired of hearing about this struggle that LeBron James talks sometimes about when he was growing up in Akron, Ohio. He insinuates that he was at some kind of disadvantage because of his skin tone. Dude, LeBron James hasn't struggled in over 20 years. Now look, I don't doubt it was a struggle for him growing up, but that wasn't because of his skin color. I'd be willing to bet that most kids growing up in poor neighborhoods, they struggle a lot. Now anyway, like I said, this is the reason that it's always a bad idea for sports to immerse itself into politics. Major League Baseball has taken a beating the last couple of weeks for moving the All-Star game from Atlanta to Denver. Now, they supposedly moved it as a protest to some Georgia voting law that passed. They were doing this to stand in support of African Americans. But it's weird. It's weird. They took millions of dollars out of Atlanta, a majority black city, and moved all that money out to Denver, which has less than 10% of black people in their population. Now, you tell me how that helps the black community. I mean, nothing in politics makes sense, especially woke politics. So if you're the NBA or the NFL, Major League Baseball, why the hell would you get yourself involved? All you're doing is alienating half your audience. Raiders owner Mark Davis made things even worse when he commented on the outrage his tweet had created. The Athletic asked him about it, asked if he was going to delete the tweet. Mark Davis said no, which I actually respect. Stand by what you said. If you say something online, just stand by it. There's no sense in deleting it. It's out there anyway. Now, what Mark Davis didn't know at the time that he tweeted that, and look, I didn't know this either, was the phrase, "I can breathe," when spoken, I guess, by white people, is offensive to black people. Apparently, that phrase was used by the New York City Police Department 7, 8, 10 years ago. They wore t-shirts with that phrase on it. So, I guess the phrase "I can breathe" is a little bit tainted. I didn't know that until yesterday. But who the hell can know anymore? I mean, that was 8 or 10 years ago. Who can remember that? I get so tired of everybody in the woke community being offended by everything. It's to the point now where you don't know what will offend anybody anymore. You could say, "I am rich," and it would offend poor people all over the country. You could say, "I am hungry." It would offend apples and oranges everywhere. You could say, "I'm high," and sober people worldwide would be offended that you're high and they're not. My point is, it is just far past the point of absurdity with these wokers. It is out of control. There's just no winning with them. Mark Davis told The Athletic that he had learned his lesson from this tweet. Now, I'm not sure which lesson that he's talking about that he learned, but I hope the lesson that he learned is that it's just best to keep quiet when it comes to issues like this. Don't offer your support. Don't offer kind words. Just keep quiet. And it sucks that it has to be that way. It really does, but that's just the way it is in 2021. Last summer, all I heard was how everybody needed to come together to fight against systemic racism. That it couldn't be done unless we all joined together to fight against it. But the problem is, when white people do offer their support, they get criticized for it. So it's best to just stay out of it and let the wokers destroy themselves. Now, what do you guys think of Mark Davis and the Raiders tweet? Did he have malicious intent with that? Was he just uninformed? Or is this another example of wokers making a big deal about absolutely nothing? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com. KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.